Hello and welcome to Canadian A Homestead. My name is Katie, and in today's episode, I'm going to be talking to you about 6 popular homesteading revenue streams that have not worked for us and what we're going to try next. As well, I'm going to be showing you my new favorite tool. It's a Creality Falcon laser cutter and engraver, and I'm so excited to show you how it works. So to start, I just want to give a disclaimer that the 6 streams of income that I'm mentioning are profitable. In fact, they really are. But the way that you have to do it involves kind of getting more into farming versus homesteading. And it might actually take some time of developing those income streams before they kind of turn around really well, where you're able to start replacing your income with them. And that's especially true within the first 5 years of homesteading, which I call a beginner homesteader, because you can't expect to just show up on a farm and start selling produce or eggs or milk or whatever. You kind of have to work your way up to it. So I'm going to list the first 6 things that come to mind and that we've tried that haven't proved to be the easiest way to start making money on our homestead. So the first thing on the list is eggs, and I'm talking chicken eggs, turkey eggs, if you want to sell those, duck eggs, quail eggs, whatever kind of eggs. We have personally tried chicken eggs and quail eggs, and what we've come to realize based on the cost of organic feed, as well as just the maintenance of the chickens and the wood chips and all that kind of thing that we're using in the chicken coop, we have realized it costs at least 6 eggs a day to keep them. So after that point, we're starting to see that it's impacting us positively, but if they're not making at least 6 eggs a day, then we're actually losing money on the chickens based on the cost of keeping them. And then after that point, our family tends to eat at least 4 dozen eggs a week. So if we're not making more than 4 dozen eggs a week, or at least 4 dozen eggs a week, we actually end up buying them. And so with 18 chickens, which is what we have, we're not seeing a turnaround where we're able to actually start selling eggs. And that's especially true in the winter months. In the summer months, I could probably sell like a dozen eggs every week or something like that. But in the winter months, we're seeing a drastic drop in production where we are in Northern Ontario, where the sun does go down very, very early. I'm talking like 4 o'clock. And there are ways to increase their production with food and lighting and whatever else, but that's a topic for another video. But for us, unless we are kind of scaling up our chicken count to the 30s or the 40s or 50s, we're not seeing that egg sales is our number one way to replace our income in 2025. Next up is chickens. Now, last year we did raise chickens, and the year before as well. And the year before that, we actually had a family friend of ours raise chickens on our behalf. And then we kind of went over there and helped with the butchering, which was really fun. And it was a great way to get into the whole chicken butchering and processing experience. And so I have the numbers here, and I wanted to go over them with you so you could see how it is a really, really awesome opportunity to save money as a family. And it could start bringing some money in pretty quickly, but it might not be the very first thing that you want to get into, primarily because of the complexity of it. For us, the total pounds of meat that we made in one production, so we did 40 chickens, I think, each time, and in 1 year, so we did 80 total each year, and the total pounds of meat was 215 pounds, which was equal to $3 a pound, which is Canadian, and then the added bonus of about $150 worth of dog food. The other way of seeing it is if you include the dog food as pounds, then you have the total pounds of meat is 265, and the total spent was $648, and so that's about $2.45 per pound of meat. Now, I don't really like counting the dog food, even though it is really helpful and does reduce our monthly spending. I would say that the fair amount is about $3 per pound for organic chicken that was also, they were raised with chicken tractors on a field, so that's also really awesome meat. And we had actually considered raising chickens to sell, but then what happened is in this last year, because it was our 3rd time doing it, so we felt much more comfortable. And then what happened is we lost the 20 chickens that we were planning on selling. And we actually had them all sold out, like people had signed up and decided that they wanted to buy them. And then we lost 20 chickens. And so we did make even, like we were still about $3 a pound per chicken, but in the end, we weren't able to sell any, and we were kind of hoping to cover the cost entirely, so we didn't even have to spend the $3. So in terms of turning a profit when you are thinking about selling chicken, it is really possible to do it, and you're gonna have to upscale quite a bit. And so that's why I say for a beginner, it's a little bit difficult because there's a lot of unknowns, and as you're learning the flow of raising chickens, you'll see that they have different patterns, and sometimes you just have random chickens die for whatever reason. And this last year was because we had a heat snap and we were both not home when it happened, and they ran out of water and they just died. There was no warning, there was no sick chickens, it was just dead. And thankfully we were able to use them for dog food because we did know that they didn't die of a disease. It was evident that they were just very dehydrated. But it is one of those things where there's a huge learning curve. And so to think about selling meat, the first thing that is our goal essentially when we start selling next year probably is to just make back the money that we're spending for our own meat. So if we can raise 80 chickens for our own family for free, we would then be selling all the other chickens for a profit, and it would kind of cancel out. And so that's our goal. But again, that's not necessarily going to replace your income. Okay, so next up we have dairy, which is an interesting topic to talk about. In Canada, all over Canada, it is entirely illegal. In the States, I do know that there are a few places where it is legal, and so I can't really speak for those spaces, but if you are in a state where it is illegal, then you're similar to me in terms of what you can do with your milk, which is that you can use your milk for your own family or for anyone who comes to your property, but you're not able to sell it. And honestly, for us, we're at a place where we pretty much need all of the dairy that we're producing anyways, so that's not really a huge complication. It is a little bit sad though, because I would love to be able to give to my local friends and family, but unfortunately that is not legal. So in terms of making money with dairy animals though, you are able to do a few other things, which is technically making cheese and selling cheese. You could do that at the market, but in order to do that, you would have to have a fully vetted kitchen, and you'd have to have it certified and take courses, and it really is a whole thing. And so unless you're already a professional cheesemaker when you get into homesteading, it's probably not going to be one of the first places where you're going to be making money, unless of course you're in a state where it's legal. Now, even though we can't be selling dairy with our dairy cows, we can start to turn a profit when it comes to beef sales. And that is if every time we breed our Jerseys back, we breed them with a beef breed, for example, Angus, we could then get into a pattern where we're able to not only provide beef for our family, but maybe one or two other families, which is a great way to subsidize the cost of raising the cows. But again, raising cows does actually cost a lot of money, and you're looking at buying hay for each cow, especially in the colder climates. You're buying a lot more hay than in the southern climates. So that is something to consider when you're looking at the pros and the cons and the cost of raising cows. I will say, having never owned goats or sheep, that when our Amish friend said, when we asked him, what's the best first animal to get into? He said cows, and he said, because they are the easiest and most relaxed. And I will say that he's right about that. We have really enjoyed our Jersey cows, and they have made easing into homesteading much easier than it would have been if we had any escape artists, which that's not to say that all goats are escape artists, but it's been a joy. And so for us, sometimes turning a profit isn't the biggest deal. It's also just enjoying our animals, and we definitely do that with cows. Okay, so number 5 is garden produce. And for obvious reasons, if you know me, you're going to laugh, because the reason why garden produce is not on the list is because I will out myself as a very beginner gardener. But if you were already gardening in the city and you're coming into homesteading and you think you can do a market garden, then good on you. For me, it won't be the thing that we're starting with, primarily because this is my 3rd year just learning how to basically put seeds in the ground and seeing what happens and understanding what kinds of soil certain vegetables need and what kinds of water some need. And, my first year I was watering right onto the leaves of the plants in the heat of the sun, and they were just all burning, and I just didn't even know why. So if you're going through the learning curve, I would say don't bank on making money the first couple of years, because gardening is definitely a learning curve. But again, if you can subsidize some of your income with your garden produce, then that's wonderful. Part of the reason why we do garden, even though we're not good at it, is because it gives us an opportunity to be outside, to be learning about nature, and to give this experience to our kids where they're learning a skill that I personally didn't learn as a kid. And so it's really just enjoyable. And that's part of the reason why we also are spending a lot of time in the kitchen and making things from scratch. And it's a lot easier to just pick up a meal from the store, or to have, even if you have ingredients from the store that are easier to use than say making it yourself. I actually do really enjoy time in the kitchen, and so many times I've made something clever that I'm like, nobody else has ever made this before. Like the first time I made bone broth hot chocolate, I thought nobody else had ever done it before, but of course there's a whole thing for it. So I don't know, maybe I actually just happened to see it online and it went into the back of my mind and I thought I invented it. But anyways, all that to say, the reason why I make things in the kitchen is because I enjoyed it. And I guess I've turned into a bit of a foodie, even though before this, I didn't really know how to cook when we got married. And that was 10 years ago. And so over time, I've started to develop those skills and enjoy them. Now, this last item on the list, number 6, is selling kitchen products. And so I have written down tallow, liver jerky, bread, gluten-free bread, pickled vegetables, as well as herbs that I've made into teas. And then you also have the skincare products using tallow from our own beef with essential oils and all sorts of things that I've been getting into have been really fun to make. However, when we look at the cost of making them, the cost of the actual ingredients is relatively low. Like if you were to go to the store and buy what you need for gluten-free bread, for example, the cost is relatively low, but the time that it takes you to perfect the recipe, to make sure that it's actually good, and then to start selling it, which then you also need to probably certify your kitchen, it does end up adding up. And so if you have another skill, say from a previous career, that you're able to do at your homestead, then it might be, say for example, your hourly rate might be higher in that previous career. Unless you're not looking to actually subsidize your income, then selling those items might not be a good bang for your buck and a good turnaround in terms of the investment. However, if you're just doing it for fun, and say you make 3 loaves of bread and you want to just sell 2 because you feel like eating 3 loaves of bread is a bad idea, then it's definitely a fun way to start to getting into homestead sales. And one of the other reasons why that's not a key thing for me is because I have noticed that the market is quite saturated. And if you know me and you live in this area, then you know that we have a wonderful farmers market, and there's so many great people there selling amazing products. And so it's not that I don't feel like I shouldn't show up, because everybody is valuable in terms of what they can offer to the community. But I do have previous training as a graphic designer and actually in video production, which is I studied television all but 10 years ago. So doing YouTube has actually been really great for me, and that's actually not on this list, but that is a way that we're trying to work towards an income. But the last thing that I was going to talk to you guys about is that even if you can't use any of these 6 streams of income that I mentioned to profit per se, you are able to use these streams of income to reduce your monthly expenses. And I'm talking like cutting your grocery bills in half, or even less than that. And the great thing about doing that is that you're getting to experience the freshness of your own food and the experience of homesteading. And I think that it really does pay off if that's something that your family has at the top of your priority list. And so it always, as usual, comes down to priorities. And for us, raising our food and being close to our food sources is really important. And so for us, it does really pay off. So with all of that in mind, since we won't be able to turn a large profit in our first couple of years selling homesteading goods, we thought, what are some other ways we can incorporate something from our past with something with our present? And in terms of my personal experience as just a general creative person, graphic design is something that I bring into the mix. And then for Rob, he is great at woodworking, and he actually has already started helping friends with carpentry work in terms of building other houses and lending a hand here and there. And he also just loves, more of the fine carpentry. And so at Christmas time, we had our brother-in-law mention to us, hey, have you thought about making wood products, such as cutting boards, signs, or coasters, and other things like that? And so we thought, no, we hadn't really thought about that, but it was a really good idea because it would combine both what Rob loves and what I love, but it would also, most importantly, be using a resource that we have already available on our land. With almost 90 acres, it's just all over the place, and we even have a choice about what kind of lumber we're using. And coincidentally, we had the Creality Falcon folks reach out to us and say, hey, would you guys like to check out this product? And it was just such perfect timing. So we thought, let's give it a go. We'll see how it works and we'll show it to you guys. And so in the next part of this video, you guys are going to get to see me trying it out and having my first crack at it. And I will let you know how it goes in the future, in the coming months, as we give this a go. And if you have suggestions about what types of products we might want to consider selling, and what platform maybe you've had success with, because we've thought about, should we go with Etsy, or should we just do the farmer's market, or is there a way to do more of mass production, or do we want to do more custom work? So if you have any suggestions, please let us know. And thank you so much for watching, and enjoy this next part of the video. So I'm here in the garage with the Creality Falcon2 22 watt, and I thought, once I get the firmware updated and ready to go, I should just do the whole thing in front of you. So I'm going to give it a go with the trial design, and then we'll try something that I made after that. So here it goes. Okay, so I think I have it in the right place, so I'm just going to press play and see what happens. Here's the guy. So that's pretty cool. I guess I don't even know what we were expecting, really, but this is really exciting to see that it works. And it was actually relatively easy. Like, there was the initial guide where I was supposed to set it up, and then there was a second guide where it was about how to update the firmware. But I think now that that's done, it's pretty much a matter of getting used to the software and then making designs. So I do have one design that I've already made, and I'm going to give it a try and see how it turns out. And I guess this worked really well because it was the design from the company, and I guess we'll see how hard it is to get it set up for using a design that I have created in Illustrator. So I guess we'll see how it goes. Looks like it's almost done. Okay, so just wrapped up and we're gonna have a look. Wow. Okay, so I am really loving how that turned out. Like, I had no idea what I was doing with the setup file, and it worked. So I think there's might be some tweaking that could be done so that it's more precise, but for the most part, I mean, I would use that as a coaster. I don't even have a cup in here. So I guess I'm gonna have to go warm up some tea and enjoy my new coaster. So thanks so much for watching, and I think we're gonna have to do this again. I mean, it's pretty cool that these guys sent us this to give it a try, and my hope is that over the next couple of months I might perfect it a little bit more so that when the farmers markets start up in the spring, I can head over there with a couple of handmade items. And my son is actually a really great artist, and I bet you he would just love to create some pretty cool items for his own sales. So I think that would be really fun to do together as a little mom and son project. And we will continue to keep you posted on how this works out. I know previously I mentioned that our hope is to have a little bit of a side income, and that the other options weren't working out so far. So we will definitely keep you posted and let you know how it works out with the farmers market and our brand new laser engraver. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.